an intellect, sorry? You're an intellect.
I think this session is say optimize and GM. But anyway, it's going to be a combination, right? Some discussion here is about the GL function, functionalities on possibilities on how we can optimize the GL depending if you haven't done it yet. And also functionalities just to reinforce capabilities within the application, how you can leverage in financial terms. So, just want to check who's using Syspro 6 SP2. So that's 2, and then 6.1. Maybe you've heard of this before. So I will just emphasize this again. So you got 6, 6.1 is what are the difference between the applications. So today I'll just go through some items. Right? When we're designing our GL, when we're defining the system, some of the reporting and what actually transpired when you move from your 6 to 6.1, and what happened in 7. Okay, future probably not much. Okay. Or 0. I'm not going to discuss the future stuff. Okay. I saw another presentation like this, and they say increase field size, and they say from 15 to 30. It's actually 35. I've seen another PowerPoint that says 30. I checked Syspro 7, I counted, but it is 35. Right? So there's a huge increase in field sizes. Right? When we start defining GL, as you already implemented the system, many companies tend to say, you know what, we've got our own structure already. We're just going to import that. Right? Same, no difference. And I think within any implementation, it's always an opportunity for you to start understanding, do I have to structure my GL? And if I structure my GL, how am I going to go about it? Do I need to cater for anything? Because the only reason, and one of the biggest reasons why you need to restructure your GL is, how do you need to come up with your financial reports? For those companies who move across all their GL as is, they lose the opportunity. And if you're in the process of thinking that you might need certain capability within reporting, maybe that's also an opportunity for you to have a look at your GL structures. I'll go through a bit with the subgroupings, which is the GL analysis. It's been there since I remember 6.1, I think, or probably earlier. The functionality already exists. It's just that many people ignore it. For whatever reason. Right? Okay. Now, if we talk about structured GL, for those who's running 6, right, or 6.1, there's a number of changes along the versions, like expansions of securities. There is a set of functionality before to control who's able to post, right? Is this usable? But now they expanded even further to use roles. Right? Kevin showed this yesterday briefly. Well, not briefly. I think he showed directly to the functions on where you go and where you structure this. So it's an extension of the security within Syspro, specific to the structures. So they've actually made a separation or sort of screen for you to be able to manage controls within people who's able to query the screens, or people who's able, or roles that can actually do postings. So this is more going through a very strict control of your GL, and depending on the company, many or some would actually try to utilize such functionality. But for some company who's in a small, medium-sized company, I think it becomes a bit too controlled. I mean, so restrictive. And this is a decision that we'll have to go through if you needed to set that kind of controls for users to post. Some would say, you know what, we want that structure, but we may not want to go through that level of security posting. It really depends on do I have a big financial or I mean just have 1 or 2 person. Start dissecting it and then say, okay, jurisdiction is this. So that is something that you would have to consider when you start implementing structured jail. Okay. Kevin mentioned this yesterday. If you want to copy certain securities against the other screen for query, you're able to do and copy those defined securities, move it across, right? Or if you want to have a separated security on its own, then you design one and the other. Okay. So I'm not going to go through that much. Okay, GL analysis. Any of you use GL analysis? We expect it. Anyone else? You're still using that, yeah. Okay, why do we want to use GL analysis? It's in the system. You've got 5 levels or elements that you're able to set. It's just a matter of defining. I mean, the reason behind us creating the GL analysis is for one big reason. So you don't have to increase your GL codes, right? So you can still do your analysis without creating multiple codes for you to report. So that's the biggest reason for that. The categories are customizable. You can define what you need to analyze. You can say, the fields, the options. You can distribute the cost against that, and also be able to generate standard reports within the system. So what I'm talking about is when you start going to your GL. So that's your analysis program in there. Whatever analysis category you want to create, I created one the other few weeks because they want to analyze their tugboats posting. They've got so many boats, they've got so many barge. The combination, they want to be able to analyze the proportion on what it's in terms of expenses. What is the expense for the combination? Because every time they move a boat, it's together with the barge, right? And the distribution of that cost they don't want to populate many GL codes in the system because they've got about 200 boats multiplied by I think about 150 barge. And they say if we do that in the GL, just imagine to analyze the expenses of these products of theirs. They're talking about hundreds and hundreds of GL codes. So the solution that we provided is the possibility of just creating analysis codes. So they've got an expense for the pairs, and then they've got analysis codes in the distribution of maybe the tugboat or the barge. Right? And then they've got all the 100 barge in there. So every time they post an expense for the pairs, they just choose that specific barge or boat and then put the expense against it. And then when they need it to expand it, they report to it. So just imagine if I'm to create so many GL codes in there, it will be a long GL codes, and it becomes a word because then they say they have to maintain hundreds and hundreds of numbers or chart accounts. Right? So it just makes life easier. When we say that you can customize, you can actually create you define your description, define your category, based on what you wanted to analyze. What we have in the system as a sample is travel. So you get your travel expenses. You define, what category analysis you're going to be using. If I'm to travel, what's the method of travel? So you see a custom pane in there advising you of the options. You can expand it. You define what are the options, and when it posts, you allocate the term posting against that. I'm not gonna say that the standard report is, intuitive. It's pretty. You can report on that. You can see graphs against the standard reports. But I think the information is right there. So if you then design other reporting based on your analysis, you should be able to. So that would be a standard sample report for your GL analysis. It shows a pie chart in there. The standard shows there is another way maybe they have changed it. It's now showing bar report. So if I'm to generate that, so I've got two reports for analysis, summary and detailed. If I'm just to generate this. So you get your detailed, you get the other report, which is, the one that I've taken a snapshot. All the posting should be identified in there, but as I said, look, it's a standard report. If we're able to call that from SRS, then we should be able to come up with any other format that would suit you. Other companies would use this as maybe for projects. You create a project, and instead of creating multiple GL code for project, maybe you have one account which is project, and then whatever that specific project you're engaging, and then you push your account.
The only problem with GL analysis is that if a company is using the purchasing system, purchase orders, there's no way to put the analysis code against the ledger code when you're raising a purchase order. The only time you put it in is a purchase order receipt. Normally it's a storeman doing the purchase order receipt, or it's a person that's ill-advised as to what analysis code should be. That's where it actually falls down.
No, they haven't changed that.
No, they haven't changed it, and that
Is it on the,
it's a serious problem.
is it on the materials or?
No, well, I don't have the list of any other changes going into the future.
You should actually request a change
Yeah.
because it actually affects the company, particularly if you're not use the requisition system for everything. There's no opportunity to put the analysis code against requisition.
The only workaround would be to use some VB scripting
Well,
to do that. But
we
it's
looked
work.
at that solution as per the one you did for
Probably,
Yeah.
SECO.
no, because
It's too complex.
Isn't there the ask me later option that you can set on for analysis? So that when it comes to journal posting time,
Yeah.
you can do the analysis then.
No, we don't want to ask it later. We want to ask it initially.
yeah. So it's ready.
Ask me later is too late, because the person doing the purchase order receipt is not the person who would be making the decision. It's the person who's raising the requisition who needs to make the decision as to which analysis code it needs to go to. That's the problem.
Yeah, it's
We
going to
need
be
to ask it up front.
Maybe script is not going to help because it's at the time that you're actually going through the posting transaction, and the requisition is not doing any transaction while posting transaction. So,
But anyway, that's
did you post an enhancement?
several times.
And what did they say?
Several
No
times.
response. Okay.
So maybe you should.
Well, I can check.
Okay. Yeah.
Say it's good to know. We can check if they're actually in the action. Okay. Statistical report, financial ratio, and SRS financial report. Anyone uses statistical report? It's been there since forever. No? Yeah. Some. The actual Syspro users? No?
Statistical accounting.
Yeah. Statistical accounts, yeah. Okay, so why would we want to do that? One-sided posting. You wanted to monitor something, any potential expenditures that you want to post into the system.
Fixed
and
assets
eventually-
users. Fixed assets using the statistical
Sorry?
journal. Fixed assets use the statistical journal.
Yeah. Okay, so if you wanted to get just a report that may be separate from your normal financial report, which is your P&L or any other reports, so you are able to utilize statistical accounts. We also use this for I think what was the guys from Conrad here? The other side. What they wanted to do is also to do distributions of an expense to multiple accounts. And the only way that we can push that is we record the percentage of, I don't know, from head office to admin to sales and so on, and distribute the accounts. So the way that we go around that functionality is to post in a statistical account the percentage of distribution, and then you do this allocation in another function in GL. So a few things that you can utilize using that account obviously for any reporting requirements as well. Now I've seen this and I've had a number of questions or none with financial ratio. When they issue, I think 6.1, they already give that extra module. So that would be your financial analysis. Every time I go to a new site, I would ask them, have you checked on the financial analysis? They say no. Okay, but for me, I normally try to engage with them because there is already a financial statement included in there as a starting point. I mean, to go through a ratio analysis query, DuPont analysis, for me, it's how do you utilize this? How is it best serve this organization or my company? It becomes a bit difficult. So if you've got your financial analysis, what the ratio is doing is just basically converting all those transactions that we have in there, right? Like your working capital, right? The cycle of information that we have in the system to give you an indication of what the turnaround in terms of days, right? For you to get your financial returns, right? And anything else. So it's giving you a ratio in terms of days on what is the expected return from your investment or your expenses. And those information are readily available in the help files. I will just normally click the help files because there's a number of calculations that they have. So it's not something that Syspro came up to say, you know what, we're gonna go with a working capital ratio analysis, right? And then this is the formula. It's actually, I tried it because I Googled a few months ago when I was having a presentation, just to see, the formulation and how they come up with it. And everything that you see on the published domain is exactly the same as what Syspro presented and created within the financial ratio. But there's nothing fancy in terms of, we make our own unique calculation. So it is standard, it is acceptable by the standard financial. So if you click off your F1 in there, you would have a complete explanation on what this particular function will do. And as I said earlier, they're trying to gauge and express it in time, where the capital or the cash flow would and it is based on those transactions that already happen. So all we're doing is we're harnessing this information and coming up with a better result or usable information as opposed to coming up with your own thing. Many companies would use this if they've got a number of shareholders because they need to understand, well, I invested in this company, what's happening with my investments, right? Or a company who wanted to know the turnaround of their inventories, sales compared to the inventory, financial relevance as opposed to just the actual stuff. So it's there. If you wanted more, it's a standard like the freebie stuff. So they come up with an idea, a query, you upgrade, and it's there. Right? So this is one item that they published in 6.1. 7 is just the same, no changes in 7. But if you're optimizing or if you're trying to look and understand your GL, this is one of the information that you would probably use, right? Depending on your industry. Now, SRS reports, they change a number of reports, and this is across the board, right? It's across the board. This is they change a number of reports within the system, and I've seen this with many. Some examples on AP, and old reports that doesn't work with SRS. I'm not sure if it's considered now as 90% or more, but you would see when you install 7 that many of your reports that when you run, you will quickly notice, because the moment you run, you will see the other tab, right? Especially this tab. This is the thing that I look for. If I see this, I know that it's already converted, right? As opposed to running the report. Oh yeah, that's that too. Yeah. Good thing about this is if you want to change it, you can easily change some of the information, remove the columns. Wherein before, for some report you can't do that. You have to create a new report. Right? So it makes it easier. Other things is the layouts of the report they changed. You would notice that that would be an old style report, and with SRS they try to, I don't know, when I see the reports, and this is honestly speaking, I see more information going in columns and so forth. I've first-hand experienced a number of customers who really wanted to scale down from that information. But because we're able to do that, it's a matter of which one do we want to reduce? Because as they publish the new one, it gets longer, and some information goes into one data with multiple lines, and sometimes it doesn't work for the customer. But I think what they try to achieve is the same thing as when you open up a screen with Syspro, right? You've got a complete information. Which one of this information you don't want to use? They started removing it. And I think because there's so many industries, so many companies, we cannot have one perfect report that will fit this, and this. So instead of that, we have all the information that is necessary for this kind of report, and it's either that we make a judgment to remove them or suppress them or something. So suppressing them is easier. Right? You go in there and suppress that one more to that row. So here. Okay, the GL journey, alternate currency, it's been there since forever, I think. If you wanted to analyze your GL with different currency, right? So it's not a distinction of that we install 6.1 or 7, right? Even 6, you have alternate currency in your GL, you should be able to report different currency within your GL. Right? So far, there's only a few companies that I've seen within Australia who have done, GL different currency, but it's there. On top of that, real-time GL. So for those guys who's running 6, so one of the push really for 6.1 is real-time GL, ability for you to have an option to say, do I want to have it running a full batch, semi-batch, or as like normal. I don't want to do any automation. I just want to click something and for you to control. So you got those options. So it was not taken for reduce it, actually just giving you the flexibility. So nothing's changed there, except for what Kevin mentioned earlier, that because we've got a number of concerns about balancing, so what they did is they added the report. Normalization of data, so this is the same thing as what he mentioned yesterday, that a number of times we would post into GL, and then some of the comment lines you can see information embedded in there. So all they did is just to normalize it, put it in a separate field that we can do searches. Right? So you got your enterprise search. So if it's a separate one, it makes it easier for us to search for specific information. Right? And you're balancing of report. Okay, automated, so they changed. There's a number of automations for about the consolidations. They made, I don't know if it's a change, because during the older version, you already have this, there's a screen separated for you to do a GL query and switch to a different currency. So that's been there for a number of versions. Right? So if I would have a currency within the local currency and then I wanted to see that in a different currency, you're able to see that in this screen. If it's based on the currency table for the GL, so as you update that, it will take into account that you need this currency, and then apply and show you the conversion. Real-time GL. Have you used real-time GL? Anyone? Yes? Okay. Difference. Right? Before we've got journal files, right, that we create, and then we put that in distribution files, and then we just post it into Syspro. So, long story short, what we try to do is to simplify. Right? But as I said earlier, every time once you create that integration, the option is still there. I mean, you get an option to have a fully automated one. So the idea is for you to pick. Okay? So it automatically creates you the journal, it automatically creates you the posting. Right? If you want semi-automation, so it means that I can automatically create the journal and leave someone to post it. Right? And end of day, end of week, end of month. I think the biggest thing that I'm quite pleased of is they're expanding the automation. They're expanding the automation. They're changing the posting into Syspro because it's really a pain. They're still using, they're still using the PRM spaces for imports. But now I've got an option. When before, if you were to import, right, you have to have that file. You just structure that file, you import it, and then you import that to the system. Now, they created a new screen for that. It's much better. So if I'm going to go and import, let's say, regular transactions, posting normal journal, I've got one new screen with save forms. So you can actually schedule if you don't want the system to automatically post as a real time, right? You've got automatic creating a journal and then wait for a night process. Because sometimes it gets annoying, right? Maybe it's been issue, or if there's many people transacting, it can be, the information flow can be a bit slower, right? Possibility. So you can actually create a job and say, you know what, for any other journal that I want to post, all the normal journals, I want to post, 6 o'clock p.m. Everything else, midnight. Right? So I can schedule that, as opposed to pushing through. It's still pushing through the system, but it's controlled in that manner. Right? So you've got those screens, which is your recurring. But I think the last one, normalization, it's all about just trying to put some of the comments into a normal fields. Like, if I created if there's a posting, it's coming from an invoice, otherwise it would be in a comment field, so now it's in normal field. So that's the normalization. Search makes it easier. So if you're in the screen of a GL and you want to utilize the search function by field, right? So you can search for that specific one easily and faster. And it's also used for simplified reporting. Now, tax table, they expanded, but I think the last thing I heard is it's more focused on the Canadian tax. Right? So they've done a number of changes, but that's specific for Asian tax, because we're using GST, so should work. Okay. The only thing that we still haven't deployed is, that long-awaited 10 years now, or 13 years of VAS report. Now that's on the slide. I've designed the report a long time ago. We tested it when I came back. There was a fault with rounding, so that's been fixed. And the only thing that we wanted to do now is to test the installation, because last time I checked, the installation failed on other machines. So I'm just waiting for that. It's in the queue. I've been pushing for that to be released. And I'm hoping that sometime quick we can distribute that. The reason why we didn't deploy that very quickly is because that it's not like any reports that you get in any application, right? That you buy an MOLB, it is when you post a transaction, you get your VAS report, right? Because Syspro is quite flexible in terms of tax codes. And one company's tax code may be different structure to another company's tax code. And for us to say, you know what, I'm going to standardize that. Well, how am I going to standardize that? So what we've done is we've made it flexible for us to say, well, I've got 5 tax codes, which within the VAS do you want to allocate this tax code? It says, right? If you've got 15 GST codes because you've got full what do you call this, GST for tax-free taxes, or capital without, and so forth and so on, you can allocate that properly within the VAS rate. So that's why it makes it a bit trickier, because we have to accommodate for the allocation of this GST. And when it's done, it knows that all information against this will go into that field, and this and this. So that's the only reason why we opted not to have any standard. First, I thought maybe an SRS report similar to the standard should be able to do it. But then, if you come along and you decided to have 2 GST codes or 12, well, how will SRS know that this information is going to? And that's the reason why we opted, to make sure that it's a developed function. And it will count. Okay, balancing function. You can see the balancing function in the GL integration. So you'll see that at the very bottom in here. That's what they mentioned. The whole purpose at this stage is to identify the gap if there is any. You've got all the automation. I would suggest you run your balance as well to make sure that there's no inconsistency as a support. Now, near future, they may expand that, because we've used other tools to come up with the corrections. Right? So it sees that there's a problem in here, and then you process and it corrects. But I mean, it's an external application. So it's actually good that Syspro is trying to bring that within the standard functions. Okay, so we just wanted to make sure that all the abnormalities is identified. And I think the effects are also happening if there's certain transactions that hangs in the background, system failure, network failure. That's the most common stuff that people try to cancel the transaction, and it didn't go through the next stage. Right? And that can happen, and we don't have any control of that. That's beyond our control to make sure that everything is possible. But if that happens, at least we've got some qualifications to make sure that it can actually be solved and identified. Okay. This is the one that I mentioned that, out of anything that we've done for Syspro 7, because I don't think there's much in terms of GL, except for new UI, and then, what's the other one? So you got new UI and a little bit of changes with the standard ports to SRS. But most of the import fields or import function has been changed. So if you would look at, let's say, import a general entries. So in the new screen, they've shown this yesterday. You can import from file as normal. You can still function of F1 if you wanted to know what the file structure is. So there is 2 file structure. there is a 7 and 6.1. If you wanted the 6.1, you just need to make sure that the file would have that first line for you to know that it's actually going to be a Syspro 7 layout. The one thing that I really struggle with is that still using PRN. Right? So you've got a file name, you've got the .prn, right? And you know, you import from that. And you can review and it understand your information. Right? Though we have that, you also have the functionality to export the whole thing into Excel. Or that. Okay. So it brings you the whole list, and I would expect that you've done this before. Export, do whatever you needed to do in terms of the information, copy that, expand it, right? And if this is everything that you need to post, all you have to do is to copy that information, right? Then go back to the screen and paste. So you get doesn't balance. Right? So you get all this information being posted into right? So across the board. So when you're importing journals, when you're importing budgets, budget imports. Okay, I think this is just a, well, it's not much, it's different screen, right? Similar with the GL copy screen, you know, when you try to merge for multiple companies, so they standardize all the UIs. Again, to make the whole screen set similar. So if it's not 95%, it's probably more. That all the screen set, most of the screen set is already converted. So you're able to do your video scripting now, or changes and so forth. So that's the biggest change. But I think the direction for Syspro 7 anyway is to make sure that all the field sizes is well taken care of. And that's what you know, the whole focus of Syspro 7 is. Anything we get from that is totally a bonus. All these bits and pieces that we get, that's totally a bonus. Okay, and I think that's everything that I can share for GL. I cannot make it so fancy. Questions?
Have you got a solution for, say, reporting the Australian financial year as well as the calendar year? Yeah, so this, I'm dealing with company that their ownership is part Australian and part American. So the Americans want the calendar year report, and the Australians want the Australian financial year report. Sure, you better joke. We're managing it now, I just want to consider this as a smarter solution.
Okay. When you start setting up Syspro, the focus is whatever you're reporting, right? I've got one company that may change from fiscal year Syspro to the calendar year because they have to report to whoever the head office is. They made the decision because they wanted everything to be aligned based on what the head office wanted. Right? So we change it. But then, if you're going to write financial reports, you're going to have to rewrite from scratch somehow. Right? If you're going to do adjustments, if you change, for instance, your fiscal year and say, you know what, forget about whatever Australia's fiscal year is, I'm going to follow what they wanted in calendar years. It can be a bit difficult because you know your adjustments. So you would have to decide if you're going to stick with the real financial year for Australia and then rearrange your financial report and extend the financial report outside the system, right, to come up with a different calendar days.
You could even run it in the financial report round about selecting the right ledger periods
Yeah, I'm just wondering about
Because
that.
runtime prompts you, and because you can report back into a previous year,
Yeah.
a movement within a period, and you just need to allow their financial periods of your financial.
So you could do that sort of thing.
But just try the,
You could do it in your financial report. It's a strength of the financial report, is the flexibility you have of runtime prompts.
no, because it's report, I can say that if it's only report, it's okay, because so what so this is you mentioned, sorry. Yes, sorry. If it's report and you just want to highlight, there's a number of ways that you can do anything with the financial report, and even SRS. Like you know, you map our period in comparison to their period. So I've done other forms of report where I say, you know what, that 01 is actually 06 for them, and then you get alignment. But the data is there, the period is there. It's just a matter of saying, okay, this is equal to that, and then rejig the whole report. So it is doable. It just needs a calculation first. And I would suggest stick with financial reporting first, right? Don't change it to their calendar days, because it gets difficult. For your past reporting, it's easier here. And then for them, it's purely reporting.
Did I see the default analysis on there?
Yes.
What format is that in? What's the old C? And can you,
So always the comparison is based on period and ledger. So you can run it, you get the small ones, you haven't making changes.
and you can do what if scenario model?
It's a report.
That's really
It's reporting action.
If you want to do that, you can invite something. Maybe a dashboard.
And as Conrad said, following standard accounting practices.
Anything else? No? Okay, so I'll give it to Mr. Kevin there.
Mr. Kevin.